that brings us to broad topics, starting with the NWA World Title feud, which is, I guess, ostensibly Jeff Jarrett versus Sting, even though Sting is not on TV all month.
The world title feud of Jeff Jarrett versus Samoa Joe.
The world title feud of Samoa Joe plays keep away with the NWA title while also being in a Monsters Ball match.
It's a very silly feud. And it, like, I understand that it's like Sting's not here. He's got to get into not wearing a singlet shape. But, and he has to go do a Jesus talk show.
Of course, prior.
But, like, Samoa Joe feels like a very big deal. It feels like he should just be getting the world title shot. And it's funny, like, he has two really, like, hot programs. One with Kurt and one with Jeff. And then his match is the Monsters Ball match, which just feels so much, like, below him in comparison.
Yeah, it is the thing. I always say, like, if I could reach back into history, it would be Christian Sting based off the turn at Bound for Glory, and then it would be Joe just beating Jarrett, and Joe's your NWA champion.
Like, doing Joe Jarrett with Kurt as the enforcer for that.
And then you spin off into eventually doing Angle Joe down the line as Joe has a real title run. But yeah, it does feel... It's not the only program this month where, like, the go-home angle is for a match that's not... Because, like, AMW and the LAX do the same thing, where they have a really hot angle on the go-home show for a tag title match that's not on Bound for Glory.
Yeah, my guess is, like, that feels like more just how can we, like, heat up LAX as the biggest bastards. But it is, it's certainly an interesting direction to go with it. I do think having Joe all over these shows and the, like, Jarrett keep away stuff was entertaining throughout the whole month, though. So, well, I'm not, like, against it. It just feels like there should have been a better end point for Joe at Bound for Glory.
So, coming out of No Surrender, there are two things coming forward. The world title match is already made. Sting agreed to do title versus career versus Jeff Jarrett, and also Kurt Angle is in TNA. So that's how we open the September 28th Impact. We open with the vignette again. Kurt Angle announces he's coming to TNA. We cut to Mike and Don. Mike is like, we're going prime time on Spike TV on November 16th at 9 p.m. And then Don is like, Kurt Angle's coming to TNA, over and over again. He's very excited.
They're all very excited. This is a big coup.
It is. And this is the exact reaction you should have to Kurt Angle coming to TNA.
Yeah, whiny internet fans, torch listeners.
No, they said whatever the words they used were like informed wrestling fans, Liam. Informed.
I hate the informed wrestling fans. That's going to be my new Twitter gimmick.
That's actually going to be my competitor to the Wrestling Observer, the Wrestling Informer.
Wow.
I'm going to take down Dave Meltzer once and for all.
To be fair, Dave is more of an informer than an observer at this point.
That's true. He is not independent. Our opening match doesn't even get started, as it's meant to be Lance Hoyt versus Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett, wearing street clothes, jumps Hoyt during his entrance. This is, and it kind of surprised me looking at it, this is Hoyt's first match on Impact since February.
He has been gone for a long time. I did notice it. My first, like, instinct when this was happening was that, like, oh, Jeff Jarrett's getting the Abyss get your win back match. But he's like, I'm skipping that bullshit. I'm just going to beat the shit out of him.
It's going straight to jumping Hoyt. Yeah, I didn't even really notice Hoyt was gone that long. I knew he wasn't, like, super around. But yeah, first match on Impact since February. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Jarrett chokes Lance with a strap and whips him. Jarrett says the name of our show, because at one point he is like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's Don's classic line.
Yeah, he's stealing it from us and Don. Jarrett shows the belt marks on his back and said he was beaten like a trade slave.
Crazy.
Yeah. He's also mad Joe left with the NWA title at the end of No Surrender. Jarrett demands that Cornette get his belt back by the end of the show. We do have a press conference that runs throughout multiple of the stories that we'll be running back to, because there's multiple different threads coming out of it.
This is the most interconnected month of television for storylines, I think, ever.
Yeah, we're going to cover the three heavyweight stuff back to back to back, but there's a lot of crossover. Like, we could do it as one block, and we kind of are, but we will try and at least keep it story to story, so for some sense of coherence.
Just, okay, so, like, basically, like, the Christian Runner stuff is, like, tangentially involved, but we might as well do the Monsters Bowl and the Jarrett stuff all together, because most of that is Samoa Joe related, and Samoa Joe is completely, like, joined up to the Jarrett thing at the same time. So I think, like for example, on this one, we cover Joe Raven as well, but we don't cover the Christian Rhino recap stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, because as you said, it is all like bungled together into one kind of mesh of stuff that sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense, but...
We're also an Angle show now, baby.
So yeah, at this press conference, we have Bagwell, Luger, LAX, Rhino, JB, and Cornette. This is where Cornette announces a bunch of Bound for Glory matches. Here he announces Joe versus Raven versus Runt versus Abyss at Monsters Ball. Plus, circles back to Jarrett versus Sting, title versus career. Angle will be involved in that match, and by the end of this episode, Cornette will announce how Angle will be involved in that Bound for Glory match. And they did like the polite applause all these announcements got.
I was there, politely applauding.
You're like, hell yeah, I want that Monsters Ball. Samoa Joe faced Raven.
Raven looks like shit.
He's fallen so far down the pecking order at this point.
Yeah, he's like, this is a shadow of the man who was the hottest guy in the company for a couple of years.
Because this is Joe beating a former NWA World Champion, and at no point do they treat the idea of Joe beating Raven as important.
No.
This is just a guy for Joe to beat. It is not like one of the biggest stars of this company for the last 3 years, which Raven objectively has been. It's just Joe running over some nerd that nobody cares about.
And the fans don't care either.
Joe goes for an elbow suicida, but Raven lifts a chair in his way instead. Jarrett is watching backstage, again going to the reoccurring theme that every match this month, something will happen within the first minute of it. So that, like, you cannot just have Joe against Raven, you have to show Jarrett, even though Jarrett's already been on this show. Joe chokes out Raven for the win. Raven does very egomaniacally spend like a minute in that choke before eventually tapping out. He did like do a very soft tap out. I thought he would pass out, but he did tap out. Runt slaps Joe a couple times, so Joe slaps the shit out of him. Well, Runt shows up, I guess. Rather, Runt did a run-in, and choked Raven with a chain. To go back to, again, within the first 3 minutes of this match, Jarrett on a monitor, Runt doing a run-in. It's Joe and Raven, and you already have two things happening.
Yeah, it's and like in a match that goes like 3 minutes.
Yeah, the match isn't even that long. But yeah, Runt slaps Joe a couple times, so Joe slaps the shit out of him and then press slams him onto Raven on the floor. Abyss appears behind Joe as they face off, a quick brawl before Joe boots Abyss out of the ring. Raven, Runt, and Abyss brawl as Joe goes to leave with the NWA title. Cornette appears and asks for the belt. Joe says if Corny wants the belt, tell Jarrett or Sting to come and get it.
And I like that Cornette's just really offended, but he's like, what am I gonna do?
It's Samoa Joe, you gonna take it from him?
Exactly.
We have a bunch of features this month on Sting. All of them are spooky. They're usually about he is lost in darkness, but he will find his way to his destiny and overcome Jeff Jarrett and bring the NWA title back into the light. There's a bunch of stuff like that.
That's a pretty good impression.
Thank you. That's my Barry Scott. We go back to the press conference. Lex Luger is Sting's surrogate. He's talking about how Sting is going to bring something Jarrett has never seen before. He's coming into Bound for Glory with a purpose. Bagwell, who is also Sting's surrogate, says Sting will win. He's been away training. So this is our kind of way to get around Sting not being on the show for 2 months. We have a bunch of features and then Bagwell and Luger doing some talking head spots to put over Sting and his renewed effort to win the NWA World title.
Sting's a great friend, getting his boys paydays.
Yeah, what a nice guy. I would rather him not get Bagwell paydays personally, but that's neither here nor there. There's a career retrospective on Sting with comments from Luger and Bagwell. Talks about how TNA is giving Sting the chance to finish his career on a more positive note than WCW. Luger talks about TNA has class, and that's why Sting returned there.
It's very funny that like they basically redo this whole thing for his AEW run too. Like, AEW's here to finally give Sting the ending to his career that he wants.
Yeah, poor boy's been chasing it for a while. And unlike Undertaker, he did in fact get it, so.
He did.
JB has Jarrett. Jarrett calls in Eric Young. And Jarrett is like, EY, I'm giving you a second chance. He has instructed EY to get the NWA World title back from Samoa Joe. It's EY's night of redemption after all his recent failures, after all his lie detector shenanigans. This is EY's chance to redeem himself. EY sheepishly tells Jarrett he can't do that. Jarrett issues an ultimatum. EY firmly says no. Jarrett says he'll deal with him later. He never does, so fair play to EY.
EY's like, I'm a face now. I'm not doing this shit.
And also, probably he's a little scared of Samoa Joe.
It's both.
JB is like, hey, good job, man. You stood up for yourself. And EY's like, what did I do? So EY, once again, standing up to Jeff Jarrett. He's his own man. He has a spine now. And then the press conference finally comes back out to the ring. All of this is in one show, by the way. Luger and Bagwell are there. Cornette announces that Angle will be the special guest enforcer for Sting versus Jarrett at Bound for Glory. Jarrett comes out. He's very mad. He wants his title back, and now we're going to have to do it the hard way. Cornette says if he wants it, he can go through Joe, and that's the hard way. Jarrett says Cornette is an impotent authority figure.
He's kind of right.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of your job, Cornette.
Maybe that's why Cornette starts like issuing ultimatums later in the month, being like, "Oh, you're fired." Yeah. He's gotten to by Jarrett questioning his authority.
Or he's just like, yeah, I really need that belt back.
We do need it. It's not yours. Jarrett brawls with Luger and Bagwell. Luger goes straight down. Bagwell has to get some punches in. Even when like Bagwell is thrown out to the floor, he has to do a little like, "Oh, I'm selling my arm, and that's why I can't get back in." It's like, fuck you, Bagwell.
Hey, he's protecting himself.
It's very important that he protect himself, and his booking his friend got him. Joe makes the save as we go off the air. Joe is still not NWA champion, but holding the NWA title.
He's my NWA champion.
So yeah, all of that, one episode. There's like 8 segments about this world title feud.
It's a lot. There's just gotta be a lot more going on now.
October 5th, 2006 Impact. In the show opening segment, we'll talk about the first part where we're talking about people getting fired. But at the end of that, JB asks about Joe and the belt, because Cornette is in the office with some nerds. Abyss and James Mitchell walk in, and they tell Cornette if Abyss can promise to get the NWA title back from Samoa Joe, will Cornette promise to give Abyss the first shot after Bound for Glory? Cornette calls Mitchell the sleaziest man he's ever known, but accepts this deal with the devil.
To be fair, he is someone who doesn't back out of his deals.
Yeah.
He's a relatively trustworthy individual when it comes to making a deal with... Like, he'll try. He may not work out, but he'll try.
But famously, there may be some side problems with it, with deals with the devil. They're not always the deal you sign on the face of it.
Yeah, it's like a monkey's paw scenario. But like, you know, Mitchell has no reason to fuck this one up.
I guess.
He has all to gain, and all he has to do is get the belt.
Doesn't even have to beat Samoa Joe. He just has to incapacitate him briefly.
He could just have Abyss distract him, and he could grab the belt.
That is ultimately how Jeff gets it back.
Yeah.
Abyss and Mitchell are in the ring. They call out Joe because they want the NWA title back. Joe comes out with the title. Joe lays the title between them, and then they brawl. Abyss chokeslams Joe and picks up the belt. Jarrett runs out, grabs the belt. Abyss is mad, so Joe and Abyss beat down Jarrett. Joe goes to leave with the belt, but Abyss jumps him again. Joe drops Abyss with a power slam and leaves with the belt.
So it's not working out great.
He had his hands on it at one point.
Yeah, so technically, did he not return the belt? Jarrett just lost it again.
It was Jarrett's fault that like, if Jarrett just left it play out, Abyss probably would have brought that belt back to Cornette, but Jarrett had to stick his nose in it.
I think technically they did regain the belt briefly, so James Mitchell could argue that he deserves a shot.
And Abyss does end up getting the shot after Bound for Glory, so you know what?
On a technical, damn the devil! I take it back. I take it all back.
We get a spooky Sting video.
Once again.
JB has Jarrett and Christian. They're teaming up to face Ron Killings and Christopher Daniels in the main event. Why that team, we'll talk about when we get to the tag title feud. Jarrett is mad that he still doesn't have his title. Jarrett talks so long that Christian gets his own microphone so he can talk instead.
Yeah, I love, like, two cocky heels that are, like, in each other's way. Like, I really like that dynamic whenever you see, like, two guys that are like, alright, I'm the guy here. And it's just, yeah, I thought they did a good job with it. I enjoyed it.
Especially because it is Jarrett and Christian, two men who on this show hate each other. So if they're going to team in the main event, they should still hate each other, and they do still hate each other.
They do continue to hate each other.
Christian takes credit for all the good things happening in TNA lately, and unlike Jarrett at No Surrender, he actually won. Plus, he points out he beat Jarrett for the NWA title back in February, so he's the captain of his team, and Jarrett should follow his lead.
He has a valid point.
He has proven himself superior to Jeff Jarrett in every way. Our main event, Jeff Jarrett and Christian Cage defeat Ron Killings and Christopher Daniels. Truth runs wild, but Christian dumps him out to the floor as we go to break. Hot tag to Daniels, but Homicide appears and slapjacks Daniels. Christian lines up a frog splash, but Jarrett jumps on the pin for the win. Jarrett grabs the microphone out of Christian's hand and calls out Joe. Joe comes out, brawls with Jarrett. Joe misses a knee, crashes to the floor. Jarrett has the belt back, but then Christian unprettiers him from behind and takes the belt for himself. Rhino appears out of nowhere, gores Christian. Belt falls back to Joe, who leaves with it.
I really enjoy that, like, Jarrett just has so many enemies in this world that, like, nothing can work at all because he will fuck it up and piss someone off immediately.
I do like the belt keep away thing. It is kind of fun.
And, like, it's one of the better cases of it because normally it's like someone just takes the belt and they're like, I am the real champion, and it's like kind of boring and played out. Like, I like this keep away angle. I think it's actually kind of fun.
And it somehow always ends up back with Joe.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the times, like, without his own doing. Like, it's not like he beat them up and then got the belt back.
Yeah, I enjoyed Christian taking the gore from Rhino because you can see him actively throwing the belt in the direction of Joe just to make sure it ended up with Joe.
I like to imagine that was just Christian being petty.
Mm.
Like, the character of Christian was still like, oh, well, I don't want Jarrett to fucking have it.
Yeah, Joe can have it, but Jarrett, nah. October 12th Impact. JB is outside Cornette's office. Jarrett emerges and says that sometimes the fight isn't worth fighting, and he's given up on trying to reacquire his belt.
There you go. And see, that's the key. You gotta let the world bring it back to you.
Mm.
That's what Joe's doing, and it's working really well.
It does. Every time he loses it, it does somehow like gravitate back to him. Samoa Joe is in the ring with the NWA title. He calls Jarrett a jackass. Not the stunts that were played at No Surrender, just a kind of horse. He says, for the last 4 years, the title has been held hostage by the worst men. Paper champion after paper champion. The belt has been used as a political leveraging tool. It hasn't gotten the respect it deserves. Men like Dory Funk and Harley Race treated the belt like a testament to being the best. At Bound for Glory, he'll hand the belt back to the man who wins the main event on one condition. He gets a title shot. Coolest man on earth.
Fair enough. He's got a lot of, like, you know, he's got aura, as the kids say.
Christian comes out, and Christian's like, Joe, you were just talking a lot about paper champion after paper champion. You might remember the guy before Jarrett that held that belt was me. Were you talking about me? And Joe was like, yes, I was talking about you.
Joe was like, well, Jarrett was number 1, but you're number 2.
Right up there. Christian says Joe can't beat him, says the NWA title was taken from him and he's taken it back. Then Joe invites him to take it, and Christian, instead of taking it right now, proposes they hang it to the above the building and have what is kind of an unsanctioned ladder match for the NWA title.
A ladder fight. A ladder fight.
Yes, they're simply going to have a gentleman's fight with a ladder and a belt hanging, but it's not a sanctioned ladder match because it's not an NWA title match.
Hence why I refused to rate it.
Even though it was the best match on TV this month.
It wasn't a match.
They're doing a gimmick throughout the month where they have people sitting down doing predictions for Jarrett and Sting. The first one here has
They're doing many gimmicks throughout the month.
There's so many segments on these TV shows, man. First one here has Ron Killings, and then Rhino, who is like, why the fuck do you want me to talk about this match? I want to kill Christian. I don't care about this match. We have a second one later in the show. Styles wishes it was Jarrett's career on the line instead of Sting, so Jarrett could get out of here.
Ha.
Christian, with his back to the camera, is also mad that they're asking him about Jarrett Sting when he's not involved in that match.
I like that. I like them being like, I got my own shit to worry about.
We get another spooky Sting promo focusing on how the lamp of the body is the eye, and if the eye is good, then you're good. And then Barry Scott does like some Raven promos but chanting.
Nevermore.
They are very much like that. It's like, and he will come, and he will defeat the great evil. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Franchise does the talking head spot instead of the Naturals. The Naturals just stand behind them, which I did like. Kip James says Jarrett is going to get what he deserves before BG James stops him. And he's like, Kip, you're an ass. You don't even know what Jarrett's all about.
Which kind of just goes nowhere.
There's a segment on the next show, yeah. I think it's the tee up the babyface turn they're planning for Jarrett, but it does feel like very much out of nowhere.
It's like, I don't know. I understand. I guess like BG and Jarrett have never really had a problem on the show.
No, they did. Like BG debuted feuding with Jarrett.
I forgot.
And like the Trio K had problems with Jarrett too.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't as big of a feud for me to care.
Well, that's BG James in general.
Yeah.
This did also immediately come after the tease of a Diamonds and the Rock breakup, so teasing back-to-back
James
segments.
family drama.
Oh no. No. We can't have James family drama. We've already had Trio K family drama. We get the first sit-down interview with Kurt Angle. He talks about how he won Olympic gold medal and then what would he do next. He went into wrestling and won 6 WWE titles before somebody said, you're not that special. There was nothing to prove in WWE anymore, and he saw TNA on the rise, so he came to TNA to beat everybody. Talks about how the roster has the eye of the tiger. Then talks about like his addiction to extra strength Vicodin after breaking his neck, but then TNA management looked after him and wanted to make sure his relationship with his wife and his children are going great. Which, like, it's one thing to cover that stuff in the media, which I probably wouldn't even do. I'd just like let people talk about it, who cares? Putting that on the TV show is wild.
I think none of this should have been on the TV show. I think it is so sick, like low rent. I think to make like Kurt Angle's TNA jump all about WWE sucks. I think to make it about like fuck Vince like is stupid. I like this whole interview. I think is a complete waste of time.
Yeah, it should just be like Kurt being like, TNA is the best. I want to fucking kill AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Let's go. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be like, WWE was bad and they fired me, but they didn't fire me. I left. I didn't even want to be there anymore. Yes, I was addicted to extra strength Vicodin, but not anymore.
I think it's just stupid.
He mentions it's going to be a Kurt Angle we've never seen before at Bound for Glory. His message to Vince is watch what I do. If you think you saw Kurt Angle while I was there, you haven't seen nothing yet.
Cool.
Yeah, all the WWE stuff, all the like addressing the WWE departure stuff, just don't do it. Just make him Kurt Angle, man. You don't need any of this shit.
It's very stupid.
Our main event, Christian versus Samoa Joe go to a no contest in a non-sanctioned ladder fight.
Well, it doesn't go to anything. It's not a match. The fight just ends.
Sure. It's very funny to watch this match. Fake match, whatever you want to call it, but these boys are trying so hard in this match.
They really put on like a lot of effort for this, to the point where I was like, guys, what are you doing? Don't you know what this show is?
Yeah, when you see what every other match on this show is in comparison to this, you're like, guys, why are you taking like crazy ladder bumps? What are you doing?
It's because these two care too much.
Yeah. Oh, earlier in the show, I guess we should mention it here because we are doing the Monsters Ball stuff. There was a Ron Killings and Lance Hoyt versus Diamonds in the Rough match. We're including this in Monsters Ball because we go backstage immediately when the match starts because, again, that happens in every match now.
Of course.
Where Raven is shouting at Runt and Abyss about how Joe doesn't respect the hardcore guys and then calls Joe a coconut eater.
Crazy.
This goes nowhere. This feels like they're like striking an alliance against Joe, but they immediately start fighting after this.
They kind of do like everyone knows they have to beat Joe in the actual match. There's like a touch of like Joe's the biggest threat here.
But there's like 2 more segments involving all these guys before the pay-per-view, and they all just fight.
Yeah, but like you can believe that.
But in this match, yes, Lance Hoyt and Ron Killings versus the Diamonds in the Rough. Tell me all your opinions about this match, Liam. Actually, I think you should have many takes about this wrestling contest.
The Diamonds in the Rough are breaking up.
That's a post-match. No, tell me about the match.
Oh boy, I have so much to say. Truth, he's so athletic. And he does some athletic things. Bounces around.
You can get with this and you can get with that?
Exactly. Lance Hoyt allegedly was there.
Yes.
I don't remember him being there. I just remember Ron Killings and Elix Skipper, and that's it.
These boys are a tag team now, by the way, Lance Hoyt and Ron Killings.
I think that's a fine spot for them. Probably a little below Ron Killings, but he never gets anything anyway, so what's the point of, like, pretending?
That is true. It's like, yeah, it hasn't happened yet. Why pretend it's going to happen now?
You can't say it's, like, below Ron Killings' stature, because, like, he has nothing.
And he's also been a tag team guy for 3 years.
So, yeah.
Truth floats over in the corner, pin Skipper. Simon Diamond shouts at his boys and throws his jacket at him, so they're basically doing the same angle the Naturals are doing with Shane Douglas, but listen, don't think about it. Skipper goes to react to this, but David Young stops him. Ron then gives Skipper a hug and a handshake, and this is the last time we see David Young in TNA television until Slammiversary 2022.
David Young is still a bitch about it, too. He's like, this is your fault, Elix Skipper.
And then we never see David Young again.
Well, we will, and I'll give him his remember when in 2022.
You're gonna wait till 2022?
Yep.
You're gonna wait until he's in the reverse battle royal at Slammiversary 2022 to give him his due.
I will wait till his last appearance.
All right. So, yeah, back to the Joe and Christian ladder match. Joe hits an elbow suicida onto the ladder onto Christian. Joe punts the ladder into Christian's groin. Christian hits a reverse DDT off the ladder. Joe sentons the ladder onto Christian. And that was the point where I was just like, these guys are working so hard. Why are they working this hard?
Why are you doing this?
Joe hits a big kick while Christian is on the ladder, follows the muscle buster. Joe goes to climb the ladder, but Abyss emerges. Black Hole slams Joe. Abyss goes to climb, but Raven and Runt powerbomb him off the ladder. They then fight, which means their alliance goes nowhere. Runt hits a crossbody off the ladder to the floor onto Raven and Abyss. Christian pulls down the belt, but Joe cuts him off and they brawl for it. Rhino pushes the ladder over, taking out Christian, and as Rhino and Joe go nose to nose, Rhino gores Christian. Joe poses with the belt, and I guess the result is technically a no contest.
You'll have to see... well, that's nothing. Again, it's not a match.
Non-sanctioned ladder fight ended in nothing.
Yep. Sometimes a fight just disperses.
It's true. Jim Cornette just like, go home. Let's go home. Stop it. Yeah, easily the best quote-unquote match on TV this month. Boys were trying way too hard.
Yeah, these two, they care too much. They haven't beaten the care out of them yet.
The October 19th Impact opens with Mike Tenay. He announces that TNA management has made a decision. He has a bunch of papers. Samoa Joe must return the NWA title by the end of the show, or he'll be removed from the TNA roster, effective immediately.
He should have done that. Like that. He should have done that week 2.
Not waited a month.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was like, Mitchell will do it. I have faith in Mitchell. I don't need this. And then Mitchell didn't do it, so he needed to take the extra step.
It's important to note, like, when Jarrett said that he's not going to do it, like, he's not going to, like, try anymore, he didn't.
That's true.
He had ample opportunity to run up a ladder during that.
He took the week off.
Good for him, he deserves it.
Abyss, Runt, and Raven open the show by brawling out of the tunnel as the Pyro and Ballyhoo is going off. Runt gets crotched in the post. Abyss drops Raven with a Black Hole Slam. And then Jake Roberts emerges from the tunnel with his large sack.
And you're like, why?
Jake Roberts is here. Making his TNA debut. Jake the Snake Roberts.
It's so, like, abnormal.
He laughs and reveals his snake. Abyss takes a tremendous bump at the mere sight of the snake and like, cowers in terror.
I guess we have confirmed Abyss's second fear.
Yes, barbed wire, which he did get over, and now snakes.
They should wrap the ring in snakes. No rope snake match.
That would actually be sick. Snake massacre.
All of the snakes are tied together and make up the ropes.
Yeah, if you run the ropes, you're running against snakes. The snakes in the back match.
Peter will have a problem with this.
Listen, they can get over it. We're post-woke.
We are post-woke.
Runt wants him to put the snake back in the bag. Jake DDTs him instead as the snake slithers about. Jake then grabs a microphone. Jake announces that he was asked to be the referee for the Monsters Ball match, but he's worn those stripes before in prison. So he won't be the referee, but he will be the guide that takes them to the labyrinth of their minds.
Which by that he means he will be the referee.
Yes, he does end up just being the referee. Even Dave Penzer announces him as the special referee.
Yeah. It's more of a ceremonial position, you know. The guide that takes them to the labyrinth of their minds.
Yes, that is a famous position in wrestling. I don't want cinema, I want labyrinth of mind guides.
It's true. It's post-cinema.
So you might see this Jake Roberts promo and think it was edited like crazy.
I did think there was something off about it, but I thought that might have just been Jake Roberts.
A bit of both, because it turns out, according to Dave, he ended up talking for like 9 minutes.
Hell yeah.
It was only meant to be 2 minutes, and they cut it down to like 30 seconds.
And that's what they got it from it.
That's what they got. So yeah, Jake was apparently a little bit of a mess. The segment was a bit of a train wreck.
What?
His throat was so dry you could barely hear, so they had to like punch up the audio in post.
I don't believe any of this for a second.
He apparently thought he was doing a second angle of the tapings, and when the second hour taping was over and he didn't do it, he panicked thinking he missed a segment.
No, he cares.
But yeah, Jake Roberts. This is his TNA debut, and it's exactly what you would expect out of Jake Roberts' TNA debut in 2006.
You'd be kind of disappointed to have anything less than this, to be fair.
If he came out and was coherent and normal, you'd be like, oh, well, good for him, I guess.
You're like, what? You're like, why?
A limo arrives. Kurt Angle emerges. He says it's real. It's damn real.
My favorite thing about it is JB goes up to the limo and like, this must be Samoa Joe. It's like, you think any part of Samoa Joe is arriving in a limo?
Famous limo traveler Samoa Joe is here at the show tonight.
So I was like, I was going to be like thoroughly shocked if Samoa Joe walked out of that.
JB is just too used to everybody arriving via limo.
Apparently so.
BG sits down with Mike Tenay to explain his blow-up at Kip James last week.
Yeah, please explain this to us.
BG talks about how he knows Jeff Jarrett, the man. Jarrett took him in. BG screwed up and lived with the Jarrett's family for 6 months. Says there's a man behind Jarrett and a reason for his actions.
Shut the fuck up.
I don't understand why you do this before he loses the title.
Because at this point you just think BG James is going to go heel.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Because, like, you built Jeff Jarrett up as the greatest evil in the world for 4 fucking years. And Sting is finally going to be the guy that finally takes him down off his perch. And, like, in the 2 weeks before the go home, you have a guy being like, actually, guys, he's misunderstood.
To be fair, I don't think anyone gives a shit about what BJ thinks of Jeff Jarrett. I don't think it's taking away from the great evil.
Yeah, it's just a weird choice. And I get why they're doing it, because they want to lay the seeds for the babyface turn that is to come after Bound for Glory. But yeah, it's just like, do it after Bound for Glory, guys. We get another Spooky Sting video. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega.
He is the Takeshita. He is the Omega.
Mike Tenay, he's in the ring with Earl Hebner. They're like, we need the title back right now. Here are the papers that say if you don't give it back to us, you're fired. That felt like a weird contrived prop for Joe to just rip something up, by the way, but still. Joe comes out. The crowd chants, keep the title at Joe. He analyzes the papers. Joe rips up the documents as, for the first time in TNA history, Kurt Angle's music hits.
It is, like, I do love that, like, people kind of like, what the fuck's happening? They're like, oh shit!
Yeah, it was funny. Even at Bound for Glory, when Kurt comes out for the cornet segment, they didn't actually recognize his music yet. So even then, it still took him walking through the curtain for them to be, oh fuck, it's Kurt. But yeah, there is the moment of like, what's this song? Oh fuck, it's Kurt. Kurt Angle comes up the ramp elevator, draped in the American flag as the pyro hits. Mike Tenay rejoins commentary. Joe lays the title between them. Tenay says he's daring Angle to cross the line, which I think is the first time that's actually like said on this show as like a thing that becomes a catchphrase.
Comes the catchphrase.
They go nose to nose before Angle headbutts Samoa Joe and hits the Olympic Slam. This is where Tenay goes into overdrive. He's like, can you believe it? Kurt Angle's in the Impact Zone. His call of like Olympic Slam by Angle on Samoa Joe. All fucking timer. Tenay's so good here.
Everything's going fucking nuts.
Building going absolutely crazy. Angle poses with the NWA title, but a bleeding Samoa Joe rises behind him like a fucking anime villain. Like, hits him with an enziguri. They brawl as Jarrett sneaks in to grab the title back. Jarrett looks longingly at the belt, leaves. They replay the headbutt as security and officials try to separate Angle and Joe as we go off the air. But yeah, the headbutt is like one of the iconic moments. Just because Joe is busted open hard way, and then the Joe rise spot and the shot of Joe bleeding behind him, it's all so fucking good.
It's one of the all-timer, like maybe the best TNA angle.
I think it is.
And I think the thing that like sets it apart from most other debuts and stuff is that like Joe doesn't look weak here, and it doesn't make Kurt worse that Joe doesn't look weak here. Like they somehow. And I guess that is kind of hard to do in wrestling, is like, they made them both feel equally as important during the Kurt Angle debut, which is, like, crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't just Kurt Angle eating up Joe after Joe was the guy in TNA for 18 months. No, Liam, you're becoming Russo-filled.
Well, until he proves me wrong.
He has booked a month of good, crazy television.
It's true.
But yeah, everything about this segment is awesome. Mike Tenay is awesome. Angle is awesome. Joe is awesome. Even Jarrett, like, sneaking in to just get the belt in the slimiest way imaginable while these two killers are looking to kill each other.
A great payoff to the whole thing as well. Like, the whole months of story, like it's a great payoff that, like, Jarrett just sneaks in like a fucking snake and just gets it. Like, the living cockroach that he is.
And then looks at the belt with a little bit of, like, is this even worth it? Yeah, amazing go home segment for a match that's not happening for a month, but that's fine. It is not the end of the television show though, Liam.
Do you remember me?
As we end the show with a Chris Jericho jump scare as the Fozzy song Enemy hypes the pay-per-view with a bunch of pay-per-view matches being run down.
Do you know what my favorite part of that song is?
What?
That in the music video, there's a guy that looks like a really hot version of Tony Khan.
Okay, I did not notice this.
If you check the notes.
I like that. Oh my god, it is Tony Khan.
It's like a really hot Tony Khan.
Maybe it is, but like, who's to say Tony wasn't a much more handsome? Well, not that he is not a handsome man, but
he's just a jacked man.
Yeah, maybe this was.
He's
Tony
like
back
if
in 2006.
Superman was Tony Khan.
Yeah. Damn, Jericho going to AEW was like destined.
I know, right?
But yeah, this is Chris Jericho's only appearance on TNA Impact.
For now.
That is true. He could technically have one further down the line from now.
We're leaking it right here.
Chris Jericho is going to debut on TNA in 2027.
It is a contract year for Chris Jericho.
Yeah, the actually Enemy as a song worked really well for the Rhino Christian feud.
I like Enemy.
It's not the worst Chris Jericho song.
No. There's some like Fuzzy is just straight up like butt rock. But like Some of it's some good butt rock.
Judas is a good song.
I like Live Wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could name the Jericho songs that aren't related to wrestling?
I can name Live Wire.
You're a big Jericho fan. I think that's real Fozzy fandom.
Yeah, I'm a Foz head.
Sure. Famously. Dave Sahadi and Kevin Sullivan helped produce this video, by the way, along with the music video. Dave was actually like, I've seen that music video before, not realizing they would splice in TNA highlights because of fucking course they would. He thought they were just going to close the show with the Chris Jericho Fozzy music video.
I wonder how many people like watch this and are like, fucking Jericho's jumping.
Especially because like you have Angle's debut with a big moment, and then the next thing you see is Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy.
I was listening to Enemy in the background while you were describing the Angle Joe segment, and it was perfect.
Okay. You just happened to
It was
listen to
cinema.
that multiple times.
They're just like, why just then?
No, I just assume you have Chris Jericho's Enemy on all time at all times.
It's
Just-
constantly playing in my brain, to be fair.
Do you remember me?
Isn't the plot of that like music video that like there's a guy trying to kill himself?
Is
Like
it?
that jacked Tony Khan is trying to like climb to the top of a building to jump off?
And then he finds Chris Jericho and Fozzy there and realizes life is worth living.
Yeah, I think so. Let me find out.
It is such a funny back-to-back segments of like you get that Angle Joe segment and then you get the Jericho Fozzy video. It's like, what the hell's going on this show all of a
He
sudden?
climbs up and sees a woman making out with someone, presumably his enemy. And then then he climbs on top of the roof and jumps off. Fucking kills himself.
So yeah, the Fozzy song did not cause him to save his life.
I mean, in my lowest moments, would Fozzy save me?
Or make you more likely to jump.
Yeah.
Bound for Glory, October 22nd, 2006.
Anime.
From the CompuWare Sports Arena in front of 3,400 people, Dave has it as. There's some reports that it might be closer to, like, TNA were claiming between 4,500, but that might be with comps or just a made-up number. Who knows?
You can never quite tell.
The show is also sponsored by Mortal Kombat Armageddon.
Fucking awesome.
How did you feel? This is for TNA's first arena show since 2002, since like the very early Nashville days. It's the first time they've run an arena since like July 2002.
I like that it's in a different building. I wish like all the pay-per-views were in different buildings. But I kind of hate this one.
You don't like the CompuWare Sports Arena?
I kind of think it looks small and shitty.
It does look like an airline hangar.
And it just like this should be hosting a rave, you know, not a fucking TNA pay-per-view.
It is a hockey arena.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one.
How did you feel about like the general setup? Because obviously this is the
I did like the aesthetic and like the industrial feel of it all. I thought that was good, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the actual building. I don't like that the roof is so low and you can see all like the stuff in the top of the building.
the like scaffolding and support bars and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
By the way, Enemy, the music video,
Yeah,
800,000 views.
not great.
Fozzy, Judas, you gonna have a guess on how many views?
I would say 25 million.
70 million.
Oh, that's even much better than you even expected. And I thought I was giving a high estimate there.
Yeah,
Needed Enemy on TNA television more. That would have solved your problem.
needed Judas.
Raven did say after his match that it's the type of crowd you'd go out and work for if you even had a broken arm. So it was a hot crowd in Detroit.
It was a hot crowd, and it was a big crowd.
Sorry, Plymouth, Michigan, not Detroit.
Come on.
JB was outside Joe's locker room. Jake Roberts walks up.
And you go, oh no.
Jake starts talking about how sometimes you love your snake and then it grows because he's talking about his penis.
I get it. He does do that a lot.
Talk about his penis?
Yeah.
He talks about how he'll be the ringside enforcer for Monsters Ball.
Once again, he's not.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not a referee. I don't want to be a referee. I'll be like the enforcer, probably.
But he's the ref.
That does take us to Monsters Ball. Samoa Joe defeats Abyss, Brother Runt, and Raven in a Monsters Ball match with Jake Roberts as the special guide, is what he wants to call it.
to the labyrinth of their minds.
Even though Dave Pencer does announce him as the special referee.
Yeah, but who are you going to trust?
Raven's head is locked in a cage like a Bloodborne character.
Despite all his rage, Raven's head is still in a cage.
Damn. You should work for the NWA.
No.
I've turned down jobs with the NWA like 3 times.
Brag. Maybe if Baron Corbin was champ.
Abyss hurls Brother Runt into the crowd as you can hear a woman scream, fucking scream at the top of her lungs when he does this.
It definitely wasn't for like concern over Brother Runt, and I think more that like it was gonna hit her.
Because, like, I didn't hear this when we were doing the watch long, and I was just typing the notes, and I was looking away from the screen, and I heard that scream, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? They do toss Runt straight back out, and the dude that did it high fives all his bros as he had a really good memory.
So we were debating if this was a plant or if it was just like a dude that was like, I fucking hate Brother Runt for some reason, and like very quickly it became like a realization that it was just a guy who fucking hates Brother Runt because he was so excited. All his boys were gassing him up so hard that he just fucking shit canned him.
Joe wiped everybody out with a dive. Raven hits Joe with his head cage, and then Joe fell through a table.
Despite all my rage, I'm hitting Joe with my head cage.
Abyss chokeslams Runt off the stage onto a platform below.
Despite all my rage, I am choke slamming Runt off the stage.
No! Abyss elbow drops Runt off the stage, but the camera misses it, focusing on a Jake Roberts reaction.
I could do it again, but I feel like I shouldn't.
You hit the rule of threes, you see.
Yeah.
Those were like cardboard boxes, and they actually had very little give.
Yeah, it didn't look like they had much fucking give.
Yeah, because Runt didn't break them, and an Abyss elbow drop didn't really break them, so they must have been very sturdy cardboard boxes. Raven throws Joe off the stage again to a second table. Jake is going to unleash his snake, but then Raven jumps him, a man of decency. Joe sentons Abyss face first onto thumbtacks.
Which is a fun bump.
Crazy for this dopey mid-card monsters ball to take a face first.
That's bound for glory, baby.
Senton thumbtack bump. Wild man. I love you, Abyss.
It's bound for freaking glory.
Jake comes back, drops Raven with a DDT. Joe falls with the muscle buster for the win, and then Jake drops his snake on Raven after the match.
It's like a pretty good match. It's not like amazing.
It's silly, like, hardcore spectacle. It's nowhere near as good as the Monsters Ball match on last year's Bound for Glory, but it's silly hardcore spectacle. I do feel like they tried an extra level because I think they probably felt they had to live up to that match last year, and they failed, but they did, I think, kind of try. And Jake Roberts there is funny.
Jake Roberts is funny. That is the best review possible. Jake Roberts talking about his cock and just being a weird freak.
Jim Cornette comes to the ring. His voice is gone. He's sick, but he says he would have been in intensive care before he missed this show. Cornette says tonight is not the time and place for Angle and Joe to settle their problems. I say, why not? That would be sick. Cornette announces if Joe interferes in the world title match, he'll be removed from the TNA roster. A lot of threats of firing Samoa Joe lately.
To be fair, I think it's about the only thing that fucking works.
Angle's music hits. The crowd still don't know Angle's music well enough to react to it, but when they see him, they do react. Kurt says TNA is the best, screw the rest. It says Jarrett versus Sting will be one of the greatest main event matches ever, and he'll call it down the middle. But then he turns to the Cornette and says, I don't need a buffer between me and Samoa Joe. Joe comes out, they brawl, security immediately separates them. They break off a couple of times as they scream furiously at each other.
It's very weird to see an Angle on pay-per-view for TNA. You don't get a ton of, like, big, like, you know, we're going to have a talkie segment in the middle of a TNA pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The last one that immediately comes to mind is the Christian debut, and that was nearly a year ago at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare occurrence.
But I guess they probably felt the need to do some Angle Joe development on this show after how hot the TV angle was. And to get old Jim on the show.
Jim, who is still around.
And has not... There is some stuff about how he was, like, bad-mouthing Russo at, like, the Fan Fest.
As he fucking should, to be fair.
But yeah, Jim hangs on for a good while with Russo around, so...
They managed to keep it separate for a minute.
And then, main event. Sting defeats Jeff Jarrett in a title versus career match for the NWA World title with Kurt Angle as special enforcer.
Sting's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly... Like, it's not... It feels big, but it doesn't live up to feeling big. It just like there's the surrounding aura of the match feels big league, but like the match doesn't really have any sort of like epic feel to it to match that.
No.
Like the best thing about it is like seeing Sting back.
And like it does for like the last, I think, 15 seconds. Like the finish of the match is fucking electric. And then the rest of the match, as you said, has a big atmosphere, but then it's just kind of guys doing moves that nobody really cares about.
Mm-hmm.
So Sting comes out with a new look. He has a very fancy sparkly robe. He has like classic red and black tights, red boots, no singlet, the red and black and white face paint, in very good shape.
It's interesting that like this is the look that ends up in the game.
Yeah, that is
Not
fun.
exactly like these tights, but like this era with like the tights and no singlet and the color in the paint.
That like Sting would have this look for a month of his TNA career, and it is the one that ends up immortalized in the game. The early goings of this match is Jarrett dominating Sting. Jarrett wins every early exchange as Sting powders out. Sting eventually hits a powerbomb, runs wild a little. We get classic brawling at ringside as Sting hits a suplex on the ramp. Angle goes face to face with both Jarrett and Sting at various points, stops them from using a chair. Sting sidesteps a Jarrett charge as Jarrett nails Angle. Jarrett DDT Sting on the ramp and takes over. They collide with a crossbody at the same time. Rudy Charles is about to count both of them out for 10 when Angle just drops him with an Angle slam and takes over as referee. Or sorry, Olympic slam. Don't sue me, WWE. WWE, don't sue me, please.
They're waiting.
Sting kicks out of a stroke to very little reaction.
Yeah.
Jarrett does the one arm in the air on a tombstone.
He's allowed one as a treat.
Jarrett goes for submission attempts with a figure four and an ankle lock. Sting grabs his bat, but Angle stops him. Jarrett then hits Sting with the guitar. Sting no-sells it, fires up, locks in the Scorpion Deathlock, wins the NWA title. Sting celebrates. Jarrett looks sad.
It's like when he gets hit with that guitar, you're like, yeah, we're finally... Oh, he's the one. He's won. He won the belt.
And the crowd go fucking crazy when he no-sells it. It's like the time that the match comes alive for those 15 seconds, or it's like guitar shot, Sting no-sell. Don West calls it in my favorite way imaginable, where he just forgets words. He like his call is like Sting dabba doo da.
Sting dabba doo da.
He's like so excited that he just loses the capacity to form words and just makes noises. It's the best. And Sting just locks into the Deathlock and wins. Like the crowd go fucking crazy the second he no-sells that, and the finish is really good. But as you said, the rest of the match is kind of just there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly like infatuated with this match.
Yeah, like Sting bell to bell in TNA, he's shaky. Like he's not like he has good matches and very rarely has like flat out bad matches. But a lot of the time it's just kind of this, where you're kind of left being like, yep, that was a Sting match.
We're not like quite in the era of like big Sting great matches in TNA yet.
No. Like the Bound for Glory main event next year, which is him and Kurt, is a much better match, if memory serves. I haven't watched it in a while.
Well, like, even, like, you know, eventually when we get to, like, the Jeff Hardys and the Aries and the stuff like that. It's just a better crew, I guess. It's funny because he's older, but I feel like he has better matches.
And famously bad matches would maybe one of them.
Yeah, okay. You know, when he comes back and he has, like, his, like, all-time run.
So, Jeff Jarrett is taking about 8 weeks off from TV. The Observer says 4 months. It ends up being closer to... Actually, no, 4 months is about right. 4 to 5 months. Then he'll be introduced as a babyface. There had been talk of incorporating Jarrett's real-life issues into the storyline when he turns babyface. Jarrett's wife Jill, who was diagnosed with breast cancer about 8 years ago, was originally treated with traditional radiation and chemotherapy. The cancer went into remission and returned last year. The idea was to use an on-air storyline to garner sympathy for Jarrett, but perhaps explaining that a family member had cancer without getting too specific or making up a family member that doesn't exist, just to keep real life and storyline separate enough to not get too close for comfort. So that is the Jarrett babyface turn coming up.
We will see how that goes.
Sting got lost a few times during his match with Jeff Jarrett, which is not unusual for him, apparently. Back when he was in a four-way with Scott Steiner this summer, he missed enough spots that Steiner confronted him backstage afterward. Apparently, the always diplomatic Steiner began, "What the fuck happened out there?" Sting had no idea he was off and wrote it off as having a bad memory.
Okay. Come on, guys.
From the Wrestling Observer, Sting showed up and had no idea Angle was going to be part of his match. He didn't complain. He just didn't know. While part of the blame can go to the company for a lack of communication, others are saying it showed a lack of professionalism on his part to be so unaware of the industry and the job that is paying him so much money.
Hey, he's off getting fucking gassed up for 4 weeks.
He's not watching Impact. Come on.
He's fucking talking about Jesus and injecting steroids into his ass.
He's not watching Vince Russo booked television.
He had to do that for enough of his goddamn life.
The funny story to some was that Sting forgot to bring his white face paint with him. When he realized it, TNA had people go all over to stores and couldn't find any white face paint anywhere. The day ended up being saved as during the show, a TNA official found an ICP fan in the stands with his face painted. They asked if they could borrow his face paint, which he had in his car, so about 1 hour before Sting's match, a fan went to his car to give TNA officials his white face paint.
That's crazy.
ICP saving the day as usual.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Sting, what's happening with your brain?
Not a good. It's too Jesus. His brain is Jesus all the time, not face
Yeah,
paint.
he took up all of his memory with like fucking Bible verses.
Yeah, he can't remember his spots. He can't remember his paint.
How did this man like get better?
By getting older? I don't know. How does that make sense?
I don't know.
Sting was one of the few people let in on the Angle signing. Sting was in Nashville.
Well, to be fair, he did forget the next day.
They knew they could tell him because he wouldn't leak it, because he wouldn't remember. Sting was in Nashville the day Angle was in town for the vignettes, and Dixie Carter said she had a surprise for him. Dave Hawk came in at first, and Sting didn't understand. And then Angle came in, and Sting freaked out.
I was gonna think like Sting and Angle probably have never even met.
Yeah, that probably would have been the first time. Well, Sting might have been like backstage once or twice, I guess. Certainly not like pals or buddies.
He's probably more like, holy shit, someone's getting paid more than me.
Yeah, where's my paper? He probably has like a matching clause in his contract, and he's immediately called his agent. Angle's wife Karen went into labor the day before Bound for Glory, and he missed the fan fest. There were about 600 people at the fan fest the day before, which was considered really good. They were all given something that enabled them to get into the arena at 1 p.m. the day of the pay-per-view for a personal meet and greet with Angle, since he was the biggest star advertised. Karen, who was expecting a boy, had not given birth at press time when this Observer was released shortly after Bound for Glory. Damn,
she's in labor for like days.
Yeah, and that is our NWA World Title match. A lot of angles, a lot of stories.
I don't know what angle.
God damn it.
Cut.
But yeah, Sting is world champ. You happy to see Sting as world champ?
Yes. I'm interested to see what an Impact run looks like without Jarrett.
Yeah, we will not have Jarrett on TV until the build up to Lockdown. The Lockdown Go Home show, I think, is when Jarrett comes back, which is in April. So we do have a good 6 months without Jarrett.
We're gonna have oh my god, they really give 6 months of Russo unchecked. The one guy there that can check him is busy.
He's not booking his own angles anymore. So
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what I guess since he's not booking his own shit, he may be a little more locked into the rest of the show. And you're what does that 50-50 split on someone who isn't worried about his own spot look like?
Yeah, he doesn't have to bend over backwards to contrive reasons for why he should be doing well in main events and book the show around that.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting little run here.